I was in the middle of signing my termination papers when my wife's Vegas wedding photos started flooding my phone. 23 photos. Her in a white dress. My coworker in a tux. The timestamp showed they'd said, "I do," exactly 17 minutes after he'd signed my dismissal. My hand froze over the signature line. The HR director cleared her throat, uncomfortable with the continuous buzzing from my phone on her mahogany desk. Each notification felt like a knife twisting deeper. But it wasn't until the 24th photo that I smiled. "Is everything all right, Mr. Morrison?" she asked, her voice tinged with that practiced corporate concern that meant nothing. Derek had left this same office 20 minutes ago, claiming he had an urgent personal matter. Now I knew what that matter was, marrying my wife of 15 years while I signed away my career. The bastard had even used the company's bereavement leave policy, claiming his grandmother died. Third time this year his grandmother had passed, according to the records I'd processed. The phone buzzed again, this time a message. "Just married your coworker. Thanks for being so predictable, so boring. Derek shows me what real success looks like." Success, I almost laughed. If only she knew what I'd discovered about Derek's version of success 3 weeks ago. But I kept signing, my hand steady now, working through the stack of papers that would end my 23-year career at Brennan Industries. "I'll need your company phone, laptop, and access badges," the HR director said, sliding a box across the desk. Everything I'd built here would fit in a container the size of a microwave. Another buzz. Photo number 27 now. This one showed Derek flashing his Rolex, the same watch he'd bought with the money he'd been skimming from client accounts, the same accounts I'd been blamed for mismanaging. The setup was almost poetic in its cruelty. I pulled out my personal phone and scrolled through the images one more time. There it was, photo 24. In the background, barely visible behind their champagne toast, was a face I recognized. A face that changed everything. A face that explained why I was smiling while my world burned down around me. "Mr. Morrison?" The HR director's impatience cut through my thoughts. "The items?" I handed over my corporate life piece by piece. Badge number 4478. The laptop where I documented everything. The phone with its carefully preserved emails. She checked each item against her list, efficient and cold. "Your final paycheck will be deposited within 5 business days. Security will escort you to your car." She stood. Our business concluded. "I'm sorry it had to end this way." No, she wasn't, but I was starting to realize that maybe I wasn't either, because that face in photo 24, that was Cynthia Chen, senior forensic accountant for the SEC. And she wasn't in Vegas by accident. The security guard appeared at the door, Marcus, who I'd shared coffee with every morning for 5 years. His eyes wouldn't meet mine as he gestured toward the hallway. I picked up the box, my phone still buzzing with their celebration, and followed him out. The walk to the parking garage felt like a funeral procession. 23 years reduced to this moment. A middle-aged man carrying a box of worthless mementos while his wife celebrated her new marriage to the man who'd orchestrated his downfall. But I kept thinking about that photo, about Cynthia Chen in that Vegas chapel, about the investigation I'd stumbled upon 3 weeks ago, about the choice I'd made to stay silent and let Derek think he'd won. My phone buzzed one final time as I reached my car. A text from an unknown number. "Mr. Morrison, we need to talk about your former colleague. I believe you have information that could be valuable to our investigation. C. Chen." I set the box in my back seat and typed my response. "I've been expecting your message. I have everything you need." Then I sat in my car, in the parking spot I'd used for over 2 decades, and allowed myself one moment of raw emotion. Not for the job I'd lost or the wife who'd betrayed me, but for what was coming next. Derek thought he'd destroyed me. Sarah thought she'd upgraded to a winner. They had no idea that their Vegas celebration was actually the beginning of their end, and I'd made sure to document every step of their journey to this moment. The parking garage was nearly empty when I finally started my car. 3 missed calls from Sarah, probably wondering why her cards weren't working. I'd beaten her to the bank by 12 minutes, just enough time to freeze our joint accounts. The manager, Robert, had been my client for 15 years. He didn't ask questions when I explained the situation. "She's trying to withdraw in Vegas right now," Robert had said, looking at his screen. "Multiple attempts at the MGM Grand. Block them all." The satisfaction lasted exactly until Derek called. His number flashed on my screen as I pulled out of the garage. I let it ring 4 times before answering. "You pathetic piece of shit," he snarled. "You think freezing the accounts changes anything? She's with me now, you lost." "Congratulations on the wedding," I said, keeping my voice flat. "Though using bereavement leave for your honeymoon seems risky. Didn't your grandmother die twice already this year?" Silence. "Then, you don't know what you're talking about." But I did. 3 weeks ago I'd stumbled onto something while reviewing quarterly reports, small discrepancies in Derek's client accounts, money moving in patterns that didn't make sense. At first, I thought it was sloppy bookkeeping. Then I realized it was theft. Systematic, careful, but theft nonetheless. "How's the Rolex, Derek? The one you bought last month? Interesting purchase on a compliance director's salary." "She must stay away from us," he growled. "You're done. No job, no wife, no future, I made sure of that." The line went dead. I drove home in silence, my mind cataloging everything I'd documented. Transaction records, email trails, the suspicious timing of my performance reviews suddenly going negative after 15 years of excellence. Derek had been planning this for months. The house felt different when I pulled into the driveway. Same brick facade, same manicured lawn Sarah had insisted on, but it wasn't home anymore. Just a property with 2 names on the deed. I changed the locks methodically. Front door, back door, garage side entrance. The locksmith didn't ask questions. Divorce was good for his business. While he worked, I went through the house collecting evidence of a marriage that had been dead long before today. Sarah's laptop was still on the kitchen counter, unlocked. Careless, but she'd always been careless when she thought she was winning. Her email was open. I scrolled through 3 months of messages between her and Derek, planning their future with my money, laughing about how oblivious I was. One email stopped me cold. Dated 2 weeks ago. "Once Tom is out, we can move forward with the second phase. The auditors won't look twice with him gone." Second phase. They weren't just stealing from the company. They were planning to blame it all on me. My phone buzzed. Sarah again. "What did you do? My cards aren't working. This is illegal." I typed back, "Check your email. Sent you the Nevada divorce laws. Fascinating reading about asset division when adultery is involved." The locksmith finished as the sun set. I handed him cash. Credit cards left too much of a trail. Then I sat in my empty house, surrounded by 23 years of accumulated life, and made a decision. I pulled out my laptop and began typing. Not to Cynthia Chen, that would come later. First I wrote to Sarah's parents. They deserved to know why their daughter wouldn't be at Sunday dinner anymore. Then to Derek's wife, ex-wife technically, though she didn't know about the Vegas wedding yet. She should probably be informed that her alimony payments might be complicated by her ex-husband's new marriage and upcoming federal investigation. But the most important email went to myself. A detailed timeline of everything I'd discovered, backed up to 3 different cloud services. If anything happened to me, if Derek tried to escalate beyond corporate warfare, the information would automatically forward to every major news outlet in the state. The doorbell rang at 10 p.m. Through the peephole, I saw 2 police officers. My stomach clenched. Had Derek already found a way to flip this? "Mr. Morrison? We're responding to a welfare check. Your wife called, concerned about your mental state." Of course she did. When freezing the money didn't work, tried to paint me as unstable. I opened the door, calm and composed. "Officers, I appreciate your concern. As you can see, I'm fine. Going through a divorce but handling it appropriately." They asked their questions. I showed them the locksmith receipt, explained the situation without emotion. Professional, stable, everything Sarah hadn't expected. After they left, I found myself back at the kitchen table, staring at photo 24. Cynthia Chen in the background, watching Derek and Sarah's ceremony, taking pictures of her own. My phone lit up with another unknown number. This time, I recognized the voice immediately. "Mr. Morrison, this is Derek's ex-wife, Patricia. I just got your email. We need to talk." Patricia's voice shook with rage. "That bastard got married while he's 3 months behind on alimony? At the MGM Grand Chapel. I have photos if you need them for your lawyer." "Oh, I need them. I need everything." She paused. "You know what he did to me, right? Why we divorced." I knew the official story. irreconcilable differences. But Patricia's tone suggested something darker. He cleaned out our accounts when he left, she continued, claimed it was all gambling losses. But I knew he was hiding money somewhere. I just couldn't prove it. Another piece of the puzzle clicked into place. Derek had practice at this game. The next morning arrived with a certified letter. Sarah's attorney, apparently she'd had one on standby, demanding I vacate the house, claiming abandonment. I almost admired the strategy. Leave for Vegas, marry another man, then claim I'd abandoned her. My phone rang. Unknown number. Tom Morrison? This is Janet Walsh from Channel 7 News. We received an interesting tip about financial irregularities at Brennan Industries. Your name was mentioned. Derek's next move, if he couldn't intimidate me, he'd try to destroy my reputation publicly. I kept my voice steady. No comment. But you might want to look into recent personnel changes in the compliance department. Can you elaborate? No comment. I hung up and immediately called Brennan Industries' main line, asked for the CEO's office. His secretary knew my voice after 2 decades. Tom, I heard about yesterday. I'm so sorry. Thanks, Linda. Is Mr. Brennan available? It's urgent. He's in Singapore until Thursday. Perfect timing. Derek had planned this down to the hour, strike while the boss was away, let the story fester before anyone with real authority could respond. My doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw a process server. Sarah wasn't wasting time, but when I opened the door, the papers weren't what I expected. Thomas Morrison, you're being sued for defamation by Derek Coleman. Defamation. For emails I'd sent to Patricia, which meant Derek had someone monitoring her communications. The paranoia ran deeper than I'd thought. I spent the afternoon at my attorney's office. Michael Reeves had handled my parents' estate. He whistled low when I showed him everything. This is a coordinated attack, he said. They're trying to bury you in legal fees before you can respond. They're trying to silence me before the SEC gets involved. Michael's eyes sharpened. The SEC? I showed him the text from Cynthia Chen. His expression shifted from concern to calculation. Don't respond to anyone else. Not the media, not Derek, not Sarah. Let me handle the legal moves. You focus on the SEC. That night, Sarah made her first mistake. She came to the house. I heard her car in the driveway at midnight, watched through the security camera as she tried her key in the new locks. The fury on her face when it didn't work was almost worth everything else. She pounded on the door. Tom, this is my house too. You can't lock me out. I didn't move from the kitchen table. Let her scream. Let the neighbors hear. Let the security cameras record every second. I know you're in there. Derek's going to destroy you. You're nothing without your job, nothing. 15 minutes of rage before she gave up, but not before trying to break the garage door code. Also changed. She kicked the door, leaving a dent, then drove off. I pulled up the security footage, saved it to 3 locations. Evidence of attempting to break in, evidence of threats, evidence of her admitting Derek's involvement in my termination. My phone buzzed. Patricia again. Check your email. You're going to want to see this. She'd sent a folder of documents. Financial records from their divorce. Hidden accounts Derek thought he'd deleted. Patterns that matched exactly what I'd found at Brennan Industries. He's done this before, her email read. Multiple companies, always targeting someone to take the fall. I've been collecting evidence for 3 years, waiting for him to slip up. Thanks to you, he finally did. I forwarded everything to my attorney, then opened a new email to Cynthia Chen. Attached every document, every pattern, every connection. Ms. Chen, I believe I have information relevant to your investigation. Derek Coleman has a history that extends beyond Brennan Industries. I can provide full documentation and testimony. Available at your convenience. 3 a.m. I should have been exhausted, but adrenaline kept me wired. 23 years of routine shattered in one day, but for the first time in years, I felt alive. Like I'd been sleepwalking through a marriage and a job that had both been slowly poisoning me. My phone lit up. Sarah again. This time, a photo. Her and Derek at a casino table, champagne in hand, her wedding ring prominently displayed. The caption, "Living my best life." I saved that photo too. Evidence of assets being dissipated during divorce proceedings. Michael would love that one. Then I noticed something in the photo's background, a man in a suit watching them, taking his own photos. I zoomed in. FBI credentials on his belt. The second phase Derek had mentioned in Sarah's emails, they weren't just stealing, they were laundering, and they'd just celebrated their union in the money laundering capital of America under federal surveillance. I actually laughed. Then I typed a response to Sarah. Enjoy Vegas, don't spend it all in one place. Sarah's response came within minutes. What's that supposed to mean? I didn't answer. Let her wonder. Let them both wonder why I wasn't crumbling like they'd planned. The next morning brought a new crisis. My former assistant Emma called in tears. Mr. Morrison, they terminated me. Said I was your accomplice in the financial irregularities. Another piece of Derek's plan. Eliminate anyone who might support my version of events. But Emma was smart. She'd been my assistant for 8 years. Emma, do you still have access to your personal email archive? Yes, why? Forward me every email Derek sent you in the last 6 months, especially the ones where he asked you to alter meeting schedules or suppress reports. Oh my God. He did ask me to cancel your meetings with the auditors last month, said it was for efficiency. By noon, I had 12 former employees reaching out, all terminated in the past 48 hours, all potential witnesses. Derek was cleaning house, but his desperation was showing. Then Cynthia Chen called. Mr. Morrison, we need to meet. Today, can you come to our field office? The SEC building downtown was a fortress of glass and steel. Cynthia met me in the lobby, younger than I'd expected, sharp eyes that missed nothing. Your email was comprehensive, she said as we rode the elevator. But I need to know, why didn't you report this when you first discovered it? The truth was complicated. I needed to understand the full scope, and I needed to protect myself. Derek had already started poisoning my reputation. She led me to a conference room where 2 FBI agents waited. My stomach dropped. Mr. Morrison, I'm Agent Martinez. This is Agent Kim. We've been investigating money laundering activities at several major casinos. Your wife and Mr. Coleman just made our job much easier. They showed me surveillance photos, Derek and Sarah at high-stakes tables, moving chips in patterns that screamed money laundering, meeting with known associates of a larger criminal network. We've been watching Coleman for 6 months, Agent Kim explained, but we couldn't prove the connection to the source funds. Your documentation fills in the gaps. So Derek wasn't just stealing? The theft was just the beginning. He was washing money for a drug cartel, using corporate accounts as a pathway. Martinez leaned forward. Your wife might not have known initially, but she's in it now. The marriage was likely Coleman's way of preventing her from testifying against him, spousal privilege. The room spun slightly. Sarah, greedy and cruel as she'd become, involved with cartels. We need your help, Cynthia said. Full cooperation, testimony, everything. You have it. They spent 4 hours debriefing me. Every detail, every document, every pattern I'd noticed. By the end, the scope was staggering. Millions moved through Brennan Industries' accounts. Derek at the center, but tentacles reaching into multiple departments. As I left the building, my phone exploded with messages. Michael, my attorney. Judge granted a restraining order against Sarah. She can't come near the house or contact you except through lawyers. Patricia. My attorney just got a call from the FBI. They want to interview me about Derek's hidden assets. This is happening. Emma. Mr. Morrison, 11 other terminated employees want to join a wrongful termination suit. We're organizing. But the most interesting message came from an unknown number. Tom, this is Robert Brennan. I just landed in Singapore. My board is in emergency session. Can you meet with me when I return? I believe I owe you an apology and a conversation. The CEO himself, finally paying attention. That evening I sat on my back porch watching the sunset. 24 hours ago, I'd been a terminated employee with a cheating wife and no future. Now I was a federal witness in a major financial crimes case. My phone rang. Sarah. I shouldn't have answered, but curiosity won. Tom, please. Something's wrong. There are federal agents at the hotel. They took Derek. They're asking about me. I don't understand what's happening. Her voice had lost its cruel edge. She sounded scared, young, like the woman I'd married 15 years ago before ambition and greed changed her. Get a lawyer, Sarah. A good one. Not Derek's connections. a real criminal defense attorney. Criminal? Tom, what are you talking about? I thought he loved me. He was using you, just like he used Patricia, just like he used me. I paused. The FBI will explain everything. Tell them the truth, Sarah. It's your only chance. Tom, I hung up. There was nothing left to say. She'd chosen her path when she got on that plane to Vegas, when she sent those photos, when she celebrated my destruction. But Derek hadn't counted on one thing. He'd assumed I'd react emotionally, lash out, make mistakes. Instead, I'd stayed quiet, documented everything, and let him build his own noose. My phone buzzed one more time. A news alert. Breaking, federal agents raid. Brennan Industries offices, multiple arrests in financial fraud investigation. The second phase Derek had mentioned, he'd never get to implement it, because while he was planning my destruction, I was documenting his. I smiled, the same smile from that HR office, the smile of a man who'd lost everything and discovered it was exactly what he needed. 6 months later, I sat in a federal courthouse in downtown Phoenix. Different suit, same smile, the one that had confused everyone when my world imploded. Derek shuffled past in orange jumpsuit and shackles. 20 years for money laundering, wire fraud and conspiracy. He'd tried to look at me once during the trial. I'd kept my eyes on my notes, denying him even that small satisfaction. Sarah got 3 years. Conspiracy to commit fraud. Her attorney had negotiated it down from 10 by providing evidence against Derek. She'd cried when they led her away. I felt nothing. The woman I'd loved had disappeared long before that Vegas wedding. But today wasn't about them. Today was my reinstatement hearing at Brennan Industries. Robert Brennan himself testified on my behalf. Mr. Morrison's diligence in documenting the fraud saved our company from catastrophic losses. His termination was orchestrated by criminals who have since been convicted. We owe him more than reinstatement. We owe him our gratitude. The judge's ruling was swift, full reinstatement, back pay, damages, even my pension restored. But when HR called to discuss my return date, I surprised them. Thank you, but no. I've accepted a position elsewhere. Cynthia Chen had recommended me to a forensic accounting firm, investigating financial crimes, using my 23 years of experience to catch the Derek Colemans of the world. The salary was double what Brennan Industries offered. Patricia and I became unlikely friends. She used her divorce settlement, finally paid from Derek's seized assets, to start a foundation helping women recognize financial abuse in relationships. I served on the board. Emma and the other terminated employees won their wrongful termination suit. Brennan Industries cleaned house, implementing new oversight systems. The company survived, barely. But the real vindication came in a quiet moment 3 weeks after the trial. I was packing up the house, sold in the divorce settlement, when I found our wedding album. 15 years of photographs, Sarah radiant in white, me, younger, hopeful, blind to what was coming. I almost threw it away. Then I noticed something in one of the reception photos. There in the background was Derek, already at our wedding, already watching, already planning, the long game. He'd played it for 15 years. Patient, calculated, almost perfect, except for one thing. That 24th photo from Vegas, the one that made me smile in the HR office. Cynthia Chen in the background hadn't been coincidence. She'd been following Derek for months. When he flew to Vegas for a rushed wedding, she followed. When he celebrated destroying me, she was documenting his money laundering. The FBI had been watching the entire time. Every move Derek made after my termination just tightened the net. His cruelty had been his downfall. If he'd simply fired me quietly, he might have gotten away with it all. But he had to destroy me completely, had to take my wife, my reputation, my future. That greed, that need to win everything, had exposed him to federal agents who were just waiting for him to make a mistake. And marrying Sarah, that was his biggest mistake. Because spousal privilege doesn't apply when both spouses are committing crimes together. Every conversation they had, every plan they made, every dollar they moved, all admissible in court. My new apartment was smaller than the house, downtown, walking distance to my new office. I hung only one photo. Emma and the other vindicated employees at their victory celebration. People who'd stood by me when it mattered. The doorbell rang. A delivery. A single bottle of champagne with a note, "To new beginnings. C. Chen." I opened it alone, watching the city lights from my balcony. Somewhere out there, Derek was learning to survive in federal prison. Sarah was probably crying in her cell. The money they'd stolen, the life they'd planned with my destruction as its foundation, all gone. But I wasn't thinking about them. I was thinking about tomorrow, about the new case file on my desk, about the patterns I'd already started to see, about the next Derek Coleman I'd helped bring down. My phone buzzed, a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Mr. Morrison, my husband is the CFO of Zephyr Tech. I think he's stealing from the company. Everyone says I'm crazy, but I found documents. Can you help?" I typed back, "Yes, let's meet tomorrow. Bring everything you have." Then I raised my glass to the night sky, to second chances, to justice served cold, to the smile that had saved my life. Because when you lose everything, you discover what you're really made of. And sometimes, just sometimes, that's exactly what you needed to find. Derek thought he'd broken me. Sarah thought she'd upgraded. They'd both learned the truth too late. You can't destroy someone who's already decided to rebuild. And that's why I smiled.